for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't think it's on. I guess it is.
There it
I'm just
is.
not close enough. There we go. Sharon Zabrowski, Carlton Township. Continuing with the thoughts that I had last week, I would really like to hear a discussion among the commissioners about your boards, their purpose, and you know, why you have them. Is it so everybody can have a chance to feel like they're doing something to help their government when really they aren't? Just makes them feel good. Do your boards serve a purpose? If they have a purpose, what is that purpose? Do they actually help you? If they do, how? There are two types of boards, advisory and governing. How do they differ? What are their responsibilities? How do their responsibilities differ? Most people don't know what the boards do or what their responsibilities are. I often hear when I say to people, you should get on a board, well, why? They don't make any difference and I don't know what they do anyway and I don't have time. I would think after this type of discussion that something could be put on your website to explain the purpose of the boards, how they help you, how they differ. More people then might be willing to step up and help our government. Thank you.
Any other public comment? We are going to deviate a little bit from our agenda. Mr. Vandermark has had something come up and won't be able to be here. So next our agenda is Mr. Neeb. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to allow for approval to allow bids to be received from qualified vendors to replace the parking lot at the historic Berry County Courthouse.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Gibson, support by Jackson. Mr. Neeb, the floor is
Good morning.
yours.
This is a project that was included in the capital budget for this year. So we're bringing this to you so you can take a look at what we're planning to do with the parking lot out there and get your approval on it. There's some minor differences in the lot. It's going to be extended 6 to 8 feet to the east out into the lawn. And as we do that, we'll be able to pick up a few parking spaces. So we'll get a few more cars out there. We're going to change the way people park, so the striping will be done differently. Handicap access to the building, barrier-free access to the building will be improved. The barrier-free spots will be right where the entrance ramp is. We'll have a couple of restricted spots that we currently have now. Again, will be put right next to that entrance ramp. And our sheriff's parking will be kind of on the south side of the lot. So they'll have access to both buildings. We're going to, on the drawing, we're going to put a sidewalk on the north side of the lot so that those folks who are parking in the lot don't need to walk through the lot to get to the building. So there'll be a sidewalk included. The green shrubs that currently block our chiller will be taken out and a decorative fence will be put up to cover that. Rather than 3 entrances, one of the curb cuts will be removed, so we will have just two, an in and an out. Yeah.
So is there a parking lot on the east side of that drawing? Or, excuse me, is there a sidewalk on the east side of that drawing?
On the east, no, no.
And two, weren't we gonna take off that ugly canopy? Walk down the step.
Correct. We, originally, at least the entrance from the lot to the door, the steps, was originally in the drawing. That's been taken out, generally for cost considerations.
How much was it?
We did not get cost estimates on that. The canopy certainly could be removed at any time. It's not necessarily attached to this project. Yeah.
How many spots are you gaining?
3.
3?
Just
I say I
two?
wrote 2 or 3. I
Oh.
think 3.
Okay, don't seem like very many.
No, unless you really start increasing the size of the lot.
Any other questions for Tim?
I have some. So the thing says you're going from 28 to 31, so, all right. And then, so I'm a little confused about how the people are going to get a couple things. How the people are, when they are parking on that west side, how are they going to get to the entrance to the basement? Through the handicap accessible spots?
Okay.
And why aren't the handicap accessible spots all towards the northeast corner? Instead of having that person there have to walk all the way down and then back around?
Certainly, the striping on those, the designation on those can be changed at any point. That's just the lettering. If that's your desire, we can certainly change that.
Well, I mean, looking at that one is almost to where the old entrance is, and I'm just thinking if it's a handicapped person, those 2 spots should be moved. But I still am seeing how are these folks that are parking, how are they going to access, what are they going to walk through to get to
So
the entrance?
you're talking about the far west spots?
Any of them.
Yeah.
Where do they go through to the entrance?
Yeah,
Sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
correct.
Where there isn't one, right?
There is not one.
So the only place really to access would be through where it's lined for handicapped.
Correct.
You know, I think we need some kind of,
Yeah.
because there's a wood ramp on the far west side
Correct.
and then nothing that's why I wondered if that was where it says water faucet, if there was a sidewalk in there or something.
No. Certainly, we could eliminate one of those spots and, mark that off as no parking and give entrance through there.
Go back and redo it, let's see it with the revised entrance path.
With the steps.
Turn it up anyway.
Michael, did you find that master facility plan?
Madam Chair, can I
But
ask
it
a
was
question?
in the master, when we did the master facility plan, to your question earlier, Vivian, the design then that came out of that was what the design that you're talking about, or that Ben is,
Oh,
that
Ben.
has, that right about there was a new set of stairs that went down. The parking lot itself, the layout was primarily the same, where you had parking here and then up here. You wouldn't have picked up some spots where that entrance new stairwell would be an area to
I see.
concrete was brought out, if you made decorative concrete, so to say, right there, to establish a no parking spot for public to filter into.
Yeah.
And we could, whether we did this stairwell or not, we went back to this design because we do need to do something with the parking lot. We could do nothing with it. It's just beyond us, beyond doing any type of basic repairs now. Crack sealing and whatnot, it's just, its useful life is deteriorated to a point. As well, we have patched some major areas, but they have caused some pooling of water, and over the winter become a slip and fall hazard. So we need to do something with the parking lot, and we felt that trying to get rid of 3 curb cuts, and we're going to go through and repave that, lay it out a little bit better, seemed advantageous. But we got rid of the additional expense associated with that stairwell. We can go back to the original design from the facility master plan that effectively Ben's talking about, and use that instead.
I thought my master plan was, or my master facility plan was here, but when it wasn't, so.
I don't recall that it was specifically, the parking lot was specifically identified in the facilities master plan. It was the circuit courtroom and the security entrance, and it was out of the security entrance discussion when we redesigned that we talked about, because if you'll remember, we had to reestablish where would we redo then this walkway and entrance, and as well capture the parking lot, because we've recognized that needs to be done.
When we're doing the RFPs, can't we do it, oops, sorry,
It's okay.
Go ahead.
do it like it shows there, and with a bit it with the steps going, I take it straight down into the basement too.
An alternate, we could,
Yeah.
I don't, we can certainly ask the architects, I don't know why we couldn't put that as an alternate.
Dan?
Yeah, Tim, I see just 2 spaces outside of handicap that are reserved now for police. Has there been more than that before? Okay.
No, there's been 2 for police, and then there's 2 other spots.
And that was for handicap, the other 2 spots?
No, those are reserved for.
Oh, you mean I
certain-
could have parked there that whole time? My goodness.
You could have there.
Okay.
They are reserved for a couple
Okay.
different people in the courthouse.
You're driving the biggest police car in this county's history. That truck is massive.
Anybody else have anything for Tim?
No, I think it would be good to see both drawings. Just to get kind of an idea of what Ben's talking about versus this. I'm in favor of the project, but I think if we're gonna do it, we might as well really consider all the options, benefits, and flow patterns in there and just get it right the first time. So if we have to delay it a little to move forward, when were you thinking about implementation of the project?
Certainly this summer, as we delay, I don't know if that puts that at risk or not. And if it does, certainly we can do some patching, and I don't think it's going to wash away over the winter. It'll still be there, but.
Can we have the drawings next week from the master facility plan to compare to?
I think I have them, so.
Okay.
Will you get, cost estimate for a canopy?
Do you want one removed or
Did you
a new one put over top?
You wanted something over the handicap entrance?
Yeah,
How are you gonna run that? I mean, because otherwise, I mean, if you,
it was just something Tim and I had discussed earlier.
I think it's beneficial because that slope gets very icy at times, and I think a canopy would help keep the moisture off of that.
And it guides people, and it's a visual cue of where you,
So you're gonna run it east to west?
north to south.
Okay, so when the water runs off the canopy, it's going to run right on to where they're walking and kind
Or
of be
what?
like a shower.
East, west, or north to south?
I assumed it was east to west up the ramp, but we can certainly look and see if there's something they could do. I mean, when you start getting into maybe an L-shaped or a T-shaped, you're going away from a fabric canopy probably to something a little more substantial.
I still would like to, and I realize it doesn't change the diagram much, but we really need to put the handicap all the way so that their entrance is the easiest to the building, but we also need to dedicate one of those spaces as the funnel spot for people to walk through, or else you're gonna have people walking through cars and wondering, how am I supposed to get to the building?
I mean, we're only gaining 3 spaces. If we gain 2 spaces and use one for that designated,
Sure.
as I think, I mean, we don't have enough parking as it is if we have a hearing on Commissioner Day, so 3 spaces isn't going to be that big a deal.
How many spaces are taken up with police? 2? 2.
Are any of the current spaces out, are any of the current spaces out there, are they all for guests, or are they any designated for employee parking? I've kind of heard very different things on that.
We will need to identify a couple for some critical individuals. I hate to point out who they are and whatnot.
I mean, other than what we already have. I mean, I've heard that employees can park in the back, the very far west part of this current parking lot. I don't know if that's true or not.
That's correct.
They can?
Yes, those spots on the west.
Down by the
side.
wood ramp?
And the board may want to update that policy.
Okay.
If we want to, I think there's 2 lines, the very west, and then there's
The very west one's down there by the wood ramp.
has been, right now, right against the grass, there's a series, and then there's also a short one right there
Okay.
that they're allowed to, in the main parking lot itself here,
Okay. No.
those 2,
Okay.
no.
Just those
Boys
that are
are-
designated. Okay.
Correct, those 2.
Thank you, Michael.
So that would, the board would then need to think about, that would leave this line right here, or maybe the board wants to say, for whatever reason, we're gonna employ parking unless we have an individual, for example, that has an issue with mobility.
I heard a couple different policies. I didn't know which one was correct.
Wants to say that the courts of law parking lot will be the parking lot unless you have other approval.
I totally get the limited mobility. I get that.
Any other questions for Tim?
Do we move this on to the full board? Well, depending on 2 different
Want to
drawings?
see it again in a cow, or do you want to move it to the full board?
I just want to move it to full board, but it's up to everybody.
You probably have new drawings by then.
Well, let me ask, we can,
No,
we can certainly come back, we'll have this drawing. Moving some handicap spots wouldn't arguably take very long. We could represent the previous drawing that we had showing the stairwell trying to think what else right off the top.
the canopy.
Oh, thank you. The canopy will be more difficult to, the board packet will go out, in the next, well, couple days. So I don't know that we can get canopy drawings, that type of information, by the next board meeting.
That could be an add-on to the project, though.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, this is just a RFP request essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to.
So we will have time I mean, once, and it's gonna take a couple days to get that request submitted to the press and mailed out to whatever. We'll have time to review what we're requesting.
Dave makes a good point that if you put the stairs in, you can always add the canopy later.
Right.
Would that then be within the $100,000 budget then, considered? Because
We
that's
don't
what the
know.
motion
Not with the
is.
stairs in there, I don't
Not
think.
with the stairs.
We could add a contingency to that, you know, an estimate on what it would cost to cover or put a canopy on.
Yeah, I'd like to see the drawings first and take a look at the difference between the two, and then make a decision if we need to add a contingency to it or extend the scope of the project slightly.
As long as it's not as ugly as
I agree with David. I kind of got,
You wanted something a little more red, I'm
Wait 2
assuming?
weeks then? Or do you want to see what he comes back with next week?
no, if they can get the drawings next week, that's kind of when I've said, okay, yeah, I get it. And not on this board, but on a couple other boards, it's kind of,
If it's all right, what we will do is we'll
me.
reach out to the architect, we'll get the changes in, and if it's available next week, we'll bring it. If not, we'll bring it, we'll just move it forward as it's available. And go from there.
One of the concerns I have is the canopy could make a big difference on how this whole project could go around the sidewalk and that. So I think you're gonna have to have the idea of the canopy first because of the fact that it might affect the rest of the plan that we're talking about.
I think that's what I'm maybe agreeing with you, is that we will reach out, and if they can get some things around for a canopy in short order, we'll,
Oh,
great.
okay.
If they can't, until we have a full design, once we have that, then we'll bring it back to you.
Do you want to move it to the full board, or do you want to table it?
Would postpone it.
Postpone it? Okay.
I'm okay with moving it to the board because
I'm
the
okay with
asphalt
anything.
companies are setting their plan of work for the summer. And we're looking at a really small window to get them in here to do this before winter.
Okay.
so we'll move it to the full board and be hopeful. Maybe
Well,
next
We
we'll
can
have
discuss it next week. We don't necessarily have to put it in consent. We can put it in items for consideration and discuss it more.
Okay.
I'm sure by next week we'll have all the drawings and better figures. Asphalt prices are what they are right now, so any quote that we would have had previously isn't in effect anyways, so.
Okay.
Alrighty, any other discussion? The question before the committee is to for approval to allow bids to be received from qualified vendors to replace the parking lot at historic Berry County Courthouse. That motion was made by Gibson, supported by Jackson. There being no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Alrighty. The next item on our agenda is to consider recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to approve the appointment of Nellie Shepherd to serve on the Berry County Commission on Aging Board for a 3-year term that began on January 1st, 2019 and expires on December 31st, 2021.
I would make a motion that we send her to the full board for their consideration.
Second.
Moved by Gibson, support by Connor. Discussion.
in the original motion, we had put Smeneke for a 2-year position. I'd like to see if we could just do that for 1 year. I don't know if that's a change in this, or if that would appropriate or not. Are we starting all over, or are we continuing what we had voted on before?
There were 2 3-year terms and a partial term.
It was a partial term.
The previous nominations were made for a 3-year term and a partial term. This is the remaining full term that she would be appointed to. This is a separate. Go ahead. Yep.
To Dan's point, and I don't know if I'm a parliamentarian, but as a parliamentary issue, Commissioner Geiger's motion that the board, I think it was at a committee, when we were in the Titan Center, forget if it was a committee or a board.
It was a board.
It was postponed. Catherine Graham's and Gerald Schmidtke's appointments were postponed until the May 28th meeting. So unless the board differs with me, I would say that those 2 appointments, the discussion of those 2 appointments are on hold until the May 28th. So you're only talking about Nellie Shepherd today. Now, you can not make a recommendation or make a recommendation, and then at the May 28th board meeting, you will then have all 3 appointments, or 2, depending on what you do today, before you, to then talk about if you want to rearrange terms.
Okay.
Or do different things. But I
Thank you.
apologize for interjecting.
That's fine, Michael. That's where I was thinking. Just my words weren't coming very gracefully.
Madam Chair, it's your intention to have a discussion about all 3 candidates and where the board wishes to place them?
As a member of the board, it is completely your prerogative to have a discussion next week and change those if you so choose.
It's really more of a formality.
That there be a third,
Sending her to the,
yes, a third appointment to, because there's 3 positions that will be decided on next week. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the question before the committee is to consider to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the approval to appoint Nellie Shepherd to serve on the Berry County Commission on Aging Board for a 3-year term that begins January 1st, 2019 and expires on December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Limited public comment. Anybody wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Rick Moore with the Parks and Recreation Board and the Charlton Park Board, and I'd like to invite you all to the Charlton Park Day on Saturday. Hopefully the rain will end early in the morning, and the events are scheduled, I believe, from 11 to 3 or so. I'm starting tomorrow, so like Sharon, I usually end up working early and late, so the hours are inconsequential to me. But this event is free to the public, and it is we generate the money by asking for volunteers to donate money, and so local businesses, including my own, have donated money to make this an event for the public at no cost to the taxpayers. So this is one of the kickoff events for the season, so come on out to Charlton Park and enjoy the free hot dogs and ice cream, and get ready to also come out to the STEAM show in July. And then I'll be back again to ask you folks to volunteer to make pancakes with me at 6 o'clock in the morning. So thank you very much. We'll see you this Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? I will excuse Commissioner Parker that day. He has an event scheduled, so it's a little conflict for him. So, but everybody else needs to be there. Is there any other business to come before the board? There being no further business and without objection, the committee will now adjourn.
I won't be there either.